Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we've no place to go, 8 below, 8 below, 8 below.
It's
Welcome to It's Always
fucking
Sunny in Hollywood.
January.
It's snow. January and snow go together.
Fuck you, it's January.
Whatever, I'm always in the Christmas spirit. Welcome to It's Always Sunny in Hollywood. Today we're talking about 8 Below, if that wasn't obvious enough. I'm your host, Patrick.
I'm Red, drum arts. Yeah.
And I'm Lugia, and it is anything but 8 below here.
Actually, funny thing, this is one of the only movies I can think of where if you swapped the two words in the title, it would still make sense in context of the film.
8 below 8. Yeah, because it still refers to temperature.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into that, I believe you had something you wanted to bring up, Red?
Okay, yeah. Legendary rock musician David Crosby passed away. He's probably best known for Crosby, Stills, and Nash, or Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, the same band, but sometimes Young doesn't show up, sometimes he does, But yeah, David Crosby, legendary, classic rock guitarist. He was also in the Byrds, which was Crosby, Stills, and Nash is like a super group. So, but yeah, he started off with the Byrds and then created Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and yeah, so legendary group. Rest in peace, David Crosby. I recommend listening to Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young's album Deja Vu. Probably his best work. It's a pretty good '70s folk rock record. So got some great harmonies. Yeah. Any other news? I wasn't really paying attention much to the stuff that happened.
I don't think
Nothing
so.
on my end.
Yeah, some award stuff happened, but the actual awards shows haven't happened. So who cares? Why don't we jump into the movie then?
8 Below?
8 Below.
Well, what's the current
Below.
temperature right now? I'm actually very curious.
I don't know. I don't know.
It was like briefly snowing early in the morning, but like it was like the kind of snow where it's like half rain, half snow. What's that
It
called
was a
again?
slush.
Sleet?
It was a type of slush. It wasn't sticking.
Sleet? Yeah.
It's 35 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're nowhere near close.
No, we're not. And we're also in the comfort of our own homes. What?
What's the Celsius though?
2.
Okay, so we're damn. Okay.
Regardless, bundle up because we're heading right into 8 Below head first. So, 8 Below. This is actually a loose remake of a Japanese film called Antarctica, which is about the true story of the sled dogs Taro and Jito. You guys familiar with that?
Nope.
Not really, but I did look this up on my own time, and this is based on a true story, right?
It's a loose remake of a film based on a true story.
Okay.
It's one of those.
So it's an adaptation of an adaptation.
In a way.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, Taro and Jito were two sled dogs who miraculously survived on their own for 11 months in the South Pole in the 50s. This was actually a really big story.
It should be called 11 Below then.
Well, no, it's called 8 Below because there's 8 dogs. Actually, in the case of Taro and Jito, they were 2 out of 15 dogs.
That just makes me sad.
Yeah, that's a whole other can of worms. This is obviously a lighter version of that.
Lighter.
Lighter.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into that, but yeah, just for context of where this all came from. You guys ever heard of... I know you said you'd never heard of 8 Below before. Have you ever heard of Antarctica?
I think I've heard of Antarctica before, but I've never seen it.
I've never.
And even then, I wouldn't have known it was a...
The movie, not the continent, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't even have known it was an adaptation of a true story before I looked it up.
I feel like I have heard...
Apparently the movie came out in 83, so...
Somewhere around there.
I mean, the event happened in 58. Like
apparently it was a really big hit in Japan.
It was, yeah.
But yeah, we're not talking about that. We're talking about 8 Below. And this was directed by Frank Marshall, a producer on several Spielberg films. But as a director, he only has a handful of credits. He previously directed Arachnophobia, Alive, which is also a film about surviving in the Arctic. Congo, and most recently he did a documentary on the Bee Gees. Any of these sound familiar?
I
Nope.
know of the Bee Gees. I've never seen the documentary or even knew
Yeah, I
there
know
was a
the band.
documentary.
It was only a few years ago, actually.
Really?
There's always documentaries musicians, but yeah. I've heard of Congo,
I've
but
heard
I've
of
never seen it.
Arachnophobia.
Um, I
but-
I'm more familiar with his animated work because he directed the two Roger Rabbit shorts after that movie came out.
Uh-huh.
Tommy Trouble and the Roller Coaster Rabbit.
Well, he was a producer on
So
Roger
yeah,
Rabbit, so I guess it makes sense. There's not really a
yeah, it's a
whole
mix.
bunch of info about the production of the movie itself, other than you know how it's a remake or a loose remake, and Frank Marshall. Otherwise, this is just a movie that kind of came out, released in 2006. It was pretty well received critically, and against a budget of 40 million, it made 120.5 million. And now people like me won't shut up about it.
I'm amazed at our streak of talking about movies from 2006. Like, why is it always that year?
I don't know. I don't know. A
So
lot of movies, a lot of interesting movies came out in 2006. Even though 2006 really wasn't a great year for movies.
yeah, I'm trying to think of like 2006 releases I
There's movies I like, but
like
like
off the top
I
of my head,
can't think of any like
like all
really
time
great
classics.
magnum opus film that came out in 2006. But
Yeah,
that's not
Rocky Balboa?
like honestly, I mean that's good, but
like
it's
there's
just
good there's
good.
absolutely good
I've
movies,
honestly
but
I'd say the films from 2006 that I think has had the most cultural impact is unironically Borat.
You Dare Defy Our Lord and
I mean there
Savior
are a
Lightning
couple
McQueen.
yeah, okay, this
What
one.
about 300?
But yeah, I'd say
That was
300 is like probably
2007.
Zack Snyder.
Wait,
Okay. No, that was 2006.
Was? I thought it was 2007.
no, Google says 2006.
I don't know.
Maybe it premiered
Yeah,
in
it might have released
2006
like
and
at
released in 2007.
yeah, yeah, sure.
Because I
Yeah,
consider movies
my,
released to
my
be like
favorite.
its wide expansion.
That's fair. Yeah, but yeah, no, they're good 2006 movies. Like Miami Vice.
Absolutely.
That's widely considered to be one of Michael Mann's best movie. He's the director of Heat. We've talked about him before on the podcast. So
But
like Heat's
the reason I
considered like his
say
probably. Oh, go on.
all right, I just gonna say the reason I say 2006 I don't think 2006 was a great year for movies is to put things in perspective. The movie that won Best Picture for 2006 was The Departed, which we did an episode on, and you guys didn't speak highly of it.
No, I liked it. Red
I know,
didn't.
but did you
Yeah,
love
no,
it?
me not liking it. That's a like a hot take. Me not liking The Departed is a hot take. The Departed is considered one of Scorsese's best. Like I am very much in the minority by thinking it's one of his worst. Like if you go on like Letterboxd, like it's 10 out of 10s across the board. It's got like a 4.2, which is a very high score for that website. Now, The Departed is very highly regarded. I'm just the one weirdo that's like, oh, I think it's kind of meh.
Well, I'm gonna
But yeah,
subtract 2002 from this year and head back to 8 as in 8 below. Can we get back on track for that?
Okay.
you mean
Wow,
add?
we got
Right.
so easily sidetracked.
That's the fun part about
I want
doing
to be
these.
sidetracked.
That is the fun part, but
Yeah,
yeah, okay,
but
8
yeah.
below.
Frank Marshall. Fun fact. I just think it's like really funny that Paul Walker was in this movie because the same year, 2006, is when the only Fast and Furious, like the first Fast and Furious movie that doesn't star him came out. This is when Tokyo Drift came out. So I'm like, he took like a time off from the Fast and Furious franchise to film this
Hey, dogs come first.
because he
Dogs
was
are
in all the
family.
movies till he died except this one.
Anyway, let's
Yeah.
actually get into the meat and
Um.
bones of this. So,
So yeah, want to go over the plot, I guess.
as I said before, this is a loose remake of the Japanese film Antarctica about the true story of Teru and Jiro. So, it just takes certain aspects of that and puts it here. Like, it's not focused on 2 dogs or 15 dogs, it's focused on 8, hence the title, 8 Below. These 8 sled dogs are a part of a research facility in Antarctica, but after a mission goes wrong and a bad storm rolls in, my bad. The people at the facility have to make an emergency evacuation, but they promise to come back for the dogs. but the snowstorm gets worse and they are unable to head to the Arctic. So the dogs have to spend basically half a year up there while Paul Walker tries to find a way to get back to the dogs. And that's pretty much it.
I don't know. I guess what did you guys think of it?
Well, this is my second time seeing this movie. I saw this once a long time ago when I was really young. I remembered two scenes specifically. I remembered the opening with the sauna, and I remembered the seal attack. Everything else, I remembered the basic premise, but I didn't remember specifically what happened. But you guys said
Yeah,
you'd
I
never
don't
seen
think
this
I've
movie
ever
I've
before?
seen
never
it
even
before.
heard of this movie before.
I'm surprised at that kind
I've
of.
heard of Antarctica. I'd never heard of this though.
Yeah, I never heard of it.
Did you like
Watching
it?
it, I thought it was interesting because, like, I thought it was okay. I didn't, dislike or anything. I just thought, this is a fine little family flick. If I saw it in 2006, I probably would have enjoyed it quite a bit.
I'm on the same boat. I thought it
But
was
it
okay.
didn't really
Nothing
leave
too
much of an
grand, but
impression on me.
I disagree with this being a family film.
Really?
This is a fucking tragedy.
Well, I don't disagree with you on that, but I mean, I guess
I think it.
I'd say we're 3 for 3 because I agree this is a pretty standard family film. It doesn't go above and beyond with anything. But I do think that everything with the dogs does elevate it because I really appreciate that they went the route with just having these dogs be dogs. Like there's no talking, there's no inner monologue. It's just them being the
I
normal
appreciate
animals they
that.
are. Like that I think that was really good. Because if it was like talking dogs or
The
whatever,
thing
it
that
would
bothered me
it
is
would
Like
not
a
work.
fucking Air Bud sequel. Imagine that.
yeah. Here's the thing. I'm very curious about Antarctica now because all the elements I like about this film, I feel like it was probably like lifted from that because I thought like the dog thing I thought was very interesting, but I'm sure the original did that too. The thing that bothered me is like I felt the direction in this movie was like really generic. Like when you like the first act of the movie, like you hear the kind of like bootleg sort of John Williams, like kind of a classic, kids movie soundtrack, and I was like, okay, like I was like that. This is definitely a Disney movie made in the mid 2000s, and it went into some dark places, but overall, I just thought it was okay. Like that's just like I was like, enjoyed my time. But that's it. Like I was just like, it's okay, it's enjoyable. There's some elements that elevate it, but I feel like those elements aren't like the fact that you told me it was a remake. Like that kind of color changes my perception a little bit because I'm just like, okay, so the elements that like stood out to me are probably just part of the original. So I was like, okay, well that's kind of disappointing.
Okay, going back to your
Um,
comment, this isn't a family film. Elaborate, please.
So, oh fuck, where do I begin?
Perhaps I can help give you a head start. In the beginning of the movie, one of the dogs is established as soon to retire. And I think you
Yeah.
can tell where this goes. Even the fucking dogs aren't immune to that cliche. Like, damn, come on.
I'm amazed the
Listen,
one guy didn't
I don't
die
know
from
how close,
hypothermia.
like,
He was spared.
What, Paul Walker or the scientist?
The scientist.
I mean, the guy broke his leg and fell into ice.
But the moment the first dog death comes into play, it's like they sit on that scene for a really long time too, an uncomfortably long amount of time, to the point where I'm like, yeah, family film. Watch it with your family.
I don't know. I've seen dark movies as a kid, like
I mean, yeah.
Bridge to Terabithia. So I'm like, yeah, it's a bit. It'll probably be like a little intense for kids, but I can imagine like a 7, 8-year-old would be fine watching it. Like maybe don't bring your like 5-year-old, your toddler to it, but I think 7, 8-year-old they'd be fine.
And the seal
Eight
scene
there.
too.
Eight
The seal scene
below,
later.
If your age is actually I got a good. If your age is below 8, then don't see it.
You must be this old to watch this movie.
Actually, I think I was 8 when I saw it. I didn't see this movie in theaters, but I remember I was still in elementary school when I saw it. So either 7 or 8. I don't remember exactly though. Actually, I did say one of the one scene other than the opening, the one scene I remembered specifically was the seal attack. Did that catch you off guard at all?
That did, yeah.
Yeah,
Red?
it's surprising when you see like a jump scare and a PG family picture. So yeah, that threw me off a little.
Family
Um,
movie. Okay, I'll stop.
I thought it was just like really funny seeing Jason Biggs in this movie. Like it's just funny to me that Paul Walker and Jason Biggs were like two of the main characters because like Paul Walker's known for this kind of like gearhead, greasy action movie, and Jason Biggs is known for the sex comedy American Pie. So I just think it's like funny that like this is like just seeing them in like this kind of like relatively wholesome context at the start of the film. And yeah, like the first act of this movie was just like really funny to me, just because like it was like kind of generic sort of family thing, and then it takes some interesting turns after. But yeah,
Like I said, I think the stuff. Like I said, I think this movie is at its best when it's just focusing on the dogs being the dogs, because these are some really well trained
yeah,
dogs.
Yeah,
Like with the emotions and the noises they make and everything. Like these are really good dogs. Everything with the humans like didn't really stick with me.
I couldn't tell you shit about what happened in those scenes
Like
aside
I
from
respect like
love interest that
Paul
didn't
Walker gets
matter.
brownie points because he's trying to help the dogs. Like good on him, but everyone else I don't remember. I said I saw this movie once a long time ago, and in my head I always remembered the stuff with the dogs. I did not remember how much screen time was also dedicated to Paul Walker.
It didn't really leave much of an impact too. Because I think, if I remember correctly, and I completely forgot about most of these, it was just his relationship with that one girl. I forgot her name.
I don't remember her name either.
That didn't really leave an impact on the overall story.
add the list to unnecessary romance plots. Remember how like
Yep.
all of our early videos
We're
had that?
fucking back with that trope.
Actually, here's the weird thing. You know that one guy? I don't remember his name, but that one guy who was afraid of flying. He always stayed in the station.
It wasn't, what's his name, Cooper?
Yeah, Cooper. What's weird? Cooper, he wore the beanie. He was throughout the movie. He's saying, "I have a girlfriend," but they never. It was just like a sole picture of her. And at the very end of the movie, he has a picture of the both of them. Ha! I wasn't kidding. I do have a girlfriend. Remember him?
I just remember him for his phobia of dogs.
That like there's a scene where like he's I've been kissed by a dog, bleh, dog spit in my mouth. I'm like, he did get kind of annoying at points, but other than Paul Walker, he's the only one I remember. Like anything specific about.
Everything else, the fucking one guy, the doctor, he nearly died. That stuck with me. And that was it. Yeah, I don't really remember a whole lot of the other characters now that I think about it.
Like on one hand, I do get it. Like a 2-hour movie just about dogs in the Arctic, completely silent and with no talking. That probably would be a bit of a hard sell, to get people to see it. But but I think I don't know, cut it down a bit. It would work.
Yeah,
Like all the
this
human
is
stuff. It's
2 hours, right?
it is, and
Yeah, it was
about an
pretty
hour
long.
of it's about an hour until we actually get to the dogs being on their own.
I think it could have been a 90-minute flick. Yeah, a
Yeah,
tight kind of.
You could cut about 15 to 20
a
minutes of
little
this
bit.
movie.
Yeah, it's a pretty slow paced movie. It's not unbearable or anything, but it does feel longer than it probably needs to be.
Again, I'm very curious now about how the original, stacks up.
Well, you said only
Oh,
two of the
wow.
dogs survive out of 15. Here it's 6 out of
This
8.
is- Oh Jesus! When you said this was a big hit, I did not realize this is what you meant. Like,
But
apparently, Antarctica was the highest-grossing Japanese-made film up until Princess Mononoke came out. So I was
Huh.
like, God damn, this was huge. Like Princess Mononoke, it's like legendary. So like that beat this.
I don't know, I intentionally didn't want to make this a double feature, but
No, that's cool.
I don't know, we might get to Antarctica.
We'll
Like,
see.
if you guys are really curious about it
If
now.
ever-
I don't mind.
If you guys ever see it, you can just mention it.
Maybe.
No,
At least
mean,
I
you
know
guys
for a
just ever see it, you
fact
can
what
just,
I'm getting
have a
myself
deep thought
into.
randomly.
Also found it kind of weird how at the beginning title card literally says 8 Below inspired by a true story. Like just in one place. It's not like 8 Below later inspired by a true story or at the beginning these eventually happened. It's literally 8 Below inspired by a true story right at the start. I don't know, that was just kind of funny.
That
to
should
me.
be its full
Okay.
title.
I will say though, we complained about the length. Apparently the original is 2.5 hours long, so it's even longer.
Yeah, no. I'm
Now I'm
glad this wasn't a
wondering.
double feature.
Yeah.
It could work as a standalone.
But again, the reason I want to talk about this is because I didn't really remember much of this movie aside from the bits with the dogs. I just wanted to, and I just,
I
it's a
did catch
movie.
Yeah.
that someone in the movie
It's a
said
movie.
You
that the
know what?
temperature was 50 below, and that's called false marketing.
I'm gonna say I doubt I'm gonna remember this movie besides the dogs moving forward too.
Yeah,
So
that's the
I
biggest
mean,
takeaway from this movie was the dogs.
and again, to their credit, the scenes with the dogs are really good.
you remember that movie Snow Dogs
No.
from like
Never seen it.
2002? Yeah, it's another Disney movie. That's what I thought like this was gonna be. It wasn't. It was a lot better. But I do find it funny. Apparently, Snow Dogs. It's the same dogs. They use the
Huh.
same dogs. I'm
Really?
like, oh, okay.
But yeah, I guess with that in mind, it would have been incredibly easy for them to go the talking dog route, but they didn't. I did like how, when they cut back to the dogs, it did have a counter for how many days it's been since they've been on their
You
own.
see that shit jump from like 15 to 100. Like in the next few scenes. It's absurd.
Yeah, I mean, I guess only
This
so
movie
much you
did
can
ma-
show that the dog's living in the wild. Yeah.
this movie did make me kind of curious because at one point Cooper says the Arctic it's much warmer to sleep on the floor than it is at a higher level. I'm actually curious if that's true.
I mean, temperatures are
Probably.
usually
Yeah.
colder higher up.
I thought it was no, but,
It's
but
also like
heat
windier.
rises. But heat rises.
Yeah, but it's windier and like cold. I feel like wind would that tends to like freeze you a lot more than the actual temperature does.
I don't know.
And I know with like igloos and stuff, you can like packing heat close together and packing snow close together can kind of make it warmer or something. I don't know.
Do we have anything else to add
Yeah,
about Eight Below?
I don't know. Look at this
Don't
gif of a dog I saw.
don't watch this with your family.
You should have warned me about that like 15 years ago.
I'd say
I
do
didn't
watch
even
with your
meet you
family.
15 years ago.
In fact, show the smallest child you know this movie. Traumatize them. Okay, it builds character.
I don't know. This movie didn't traumatize me when I was a kid. I mean, I
Yeah, no, that's what
remember.
I'm saying. It's a good. It's a fine kids movie. It'll just teach them about mortality and other things. I don't know.
Gotta
I'd
make them learn
say
the hard
it's.
way.
I don't know. I'd say overall, I'd say it's above average. Again, I think the dogs really do help elevate it.
It's memorable in
I
that
think it's
aspect, but
solid.
that's about it.
I'll give it a thumbs up. Not 2 thumbs up, but a thumbs up. It's a good flick, but I don't know
Like,
if it'll really stick with me.
yeah, we're not like giving it a glowing reaction or anything, but like, there's nothing really to dislike about it. It sets out to do what it wants to do, and it does it. It does it well.
Yeah.
It's just also
Of
it's
the 2006 movies I've seen for this show, I will say it is certainly one of them. I
This is
do
the
not
movie
remember
of
the
all
other.
time.
the movie.
Hmm.
Now, man, Hoot is the movie of all time, which also came out in 2006.
It did?
Honestly,
Yes,
yeah,
it did.
fair.
What's funny is that Frank Marshall was a
Jesus.
producer for that film.
Makes sense. I feel like Frank Marshall, he's just like a Disney guy, so he makes a lot of flicks for Disney.
Disney, Spielberg.
Honestly, Eight Below could have been a lot better with an IHOP.
That's the thing. They're trying to expand their market to the Arctic.
Okay.
But
I will
Percy
say
Jack,
this is probably it's definitely in the upper half of the 2006 movies we've seen. Like Monster House is probably the best one. And then I'd say like, I don't know, Eight Below, Flushed Away, The Departed. I don't know, one of those.
I'd say
But
if
yeah,
you,
enjoyed
I'd,
it.
s- I'd say if you like Eight Below, some films to check out are Balto, of course, The Call of the
Yeah.
Wild, Alive, which, as I said before, is another movie by Frank Marshall about surviving in the Arctic. It's not dogs, though. It's actually this is another film based on a true story. Apparently, it's about a rugby team that their plane crashes in the Arctic.
Huh.
Apparently, this is also based on a true story. I have never heard of it before, but it's something maybe. And also, one other film is Hachi, A Dog's
I
Tale,
recommend,
which is also an American movie about a Japanese dog. Dogs from Japan have stories to tell, dude. You guys know the story of Hachi?
No.
nope.
Hachi is the dog that waited for like 10 years at the train
Oh
station for his
wait,
owner to come back.
I have heard about him. I have heard about that. Yes.
That I remember that movie made me bawl my eyes out.
I never saw the movie, but I've heard of like the story.
I've seen the
Yeah.
movie.
Anyway, my recommendations. If you like this movie, check out The Thing. I'm kidding.
What's the connection?
the location. It's Antarctica.
Okay.
No, 127 hours because that's about a human surviving, but in the desert. But I feel like there's enough similar parallels. And if you like this, you'll like that. All the other ones you already mentioned, so yeah.
Your turn, Red.
What do you got?
So I was just wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do because I was thinking about like some romance flicks, but I realized I'll save that for next time I recommend because Valentine's Day. So I instead decided that I would do another crime movie, but this is a crime movie that I actually saw relatively recently. I only saw it like for the first time like last year, but I really really liked it, and it's quickly grown to become one of my favorites. It's kind of similar story to Election, where like I saw Election, and I just immediately kind of gravitated towards it, and I want to like share it with you guys. So this movie is called Sexy Beast. I know it's a weird title. I don't know why they named it that, but it's by Jonathan Glazer. It's a pretty quick, like 90-minute flick, so it should be fun. But it's it's a British or Australian crime show movie. Yeah.
I think I've heard of this.
Sexy Beast, year 2000, directed by Jonathan Glazer. And yeah, it's a pretty great crime flick. So I'm sure you guys probably have heard of some of his other films, like Under the Skin.
No.
No.
Oh, okay. Then never mind. So it's gonna be interesting. But this is one of those directors that only makes some movies like once every like few years. But each time is completely different and very interesting. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So next week, Sexy Beast.
It's a very summer movie, so it's going to be completely different. But I just really wanted to watch it again. So
hey, summer vibes can be nice sometimes.
They can be.
All right, so close us out.
All right, I got 2 words for you. Aurora Borealis.
Can I see it?
No.